Hey everybody, and welcome back to Jim's Garage. This video is sponsored by Ugreen, and today I'm going to be talking to you about their upcoming NAS, the 4800 Plus. Is this the fastest and most powerful NAS for under $500 for both personal and business use? Let's find out. So for those of you who've been living under a rock for the past few years, Ugreen are a Chinese company that have made many great products, predominantly in the mobile space around things like chargers, USB cables, mobile phone holders, cases, etc. And what they've sent me is a stark departure from what they're known for. They're creating a NAS. I was really excited when I saw people cover this online, people like Raid Owl at CES, and I was really excited because I bought their products in the past and they've always been good quality and affordable. So if they could extend that into the NAS space, there's going to be some disruption in the market. And I'm happy to tell you that before I even go into this review, I think this is a solid device. It's extremely competitive, especially when you consider that the QNAP and Synology devices have significantly weaker CPUs and their memories cap out at 6 and 8 gigs. It has brilliant build quality. The components are pretty much top notch and you're not going to find anything similar at this price point. And there are some quirks that I need to tell you about as well on the flip side. Now, this product is going to be available imminently through Kickstarter, and if you look in the description below, you'll find a discount code that you can get to get some discount off the device when it launches. So, in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the features. We'll then do an unboxing, and then I'll walk you through the software side. So the first thing I noticed about this device is its excellent build quality. It's got an all-metal exterior, it's got a decent weight to it, and the caddies on the front are quick release and they're really simple to mount the drives, as I'll show you soon. Underneath the hood, we've got a 12th gen Intel, and it follows a recent trend of manufacturers using mobile chips to make aggressive price points, but also make highly efficient chips because these are designed to be in laptops. The device also comes with two Ethernet ports, one at 2.5 gigs and one at 10 gigs, so you're going to get blisteringly fast NAS access on your home network, and again, this is rarely something that you see at this price point. It has expandable memory coming in at 8 gig for the model I have. This is DDR5 memory, so we'll come onto this a little bit in the future, but because it's DDR5, you're getting half of the ECC capability. That might be really important for some of you who are looking for a NAS. I've typically always used ECC memory, but you can debate this to death online as to how important that is. I think the key thing to bear in mind here is you're going up against competing products from other manufacturers that don't have this with the whole feature set you're seeing here at this price point. So naturally there has to be some give and take, and things like the mobile chipset that they use just don't support full ECC. But as I said, thanks to DDR5, you are getting the on-memory ECC, you're just not getting the bit between the chip and the CPU. Now, along with this NAS comes Ugreen's operating system, which I've had some fun with. And whilst I think it can get there in the future, at the moment it's not as robust as some of its competitors. Now, I'm going to take a glass half full approach because their development team and their marketing team that I've been talking with have been really responsive. And they've got some major new release come out in April, which hopefully addresses some of the issues that I will talk about. If you are a home labber more advanced, then you might find more shortcomings. If you are somebody who's watching this and just wants a device off the shelf with limited advanced knowledge, then this should be absolutely fine for you. All of the features that I was able to use successfully worked okay, and they're only going to get better over time. The key omissions at the moment primarily fall into virtualization support. So the good news is this hardware supports virtualization, Docker containers, etc., but they're not baked into the OS at the moment. So do bear that in mind. One big positive, however, and Ugreen will probably shoot me down for this is an open piece of hardware. You could stick Proxmox or TrueNAS on here if you wanted to. So don't feel as though the only market for this are people who want to use Ugreen's software. You could also put your own on here. Other things that I find pretty amazing at this price point are you get support for up to 96 terabytes of storage, and there's 2 NVMe PCIe 4x4 slots. So whilst that doesn't make a great deal of sense for using over a network, I think it's going to make a more compelling argument when Ugreen releases their Docker containers, because then you'll be able to use Docker on local NVMe storage to get rapid acceleration within your applications. There's also an app catalog that is in the Ugreen NAS, which has some useful apps with AI integration baked in. For example, they have a photograph application where you can upload your photographs, and a bit like Google Photos, etc., it will do facial recognition and things like that. Also, because it uses Linux under the hood, you get many of the benefits of the Linux operating system. You also get some enterprise-grade encryption, and you get various configuration options within the OS to tweak it to your requirements. So let's now jump into an unboxing. I recorded this literally opening the box after it had been received in the post. There's no smoke and mirrors here. So yes, I am going to talk to you about the quality of a cardboard box, because I know some of you will be interested in that. And I'm pleased to say that they've chosen some good packaging for this NAS. I hope they use something similar for the actual production units. As you can see, there wasn't any damage to the inside box, which you'll see in just a moment. It was really simple to move and get this thing out of there. And within inside the box, you've got this very attractive package, which clearly calls out all of the features of the NAS. And you'll also notice on the back a further nod towards having Docker support. You get also a feature overview of all the other components on the box. And again, I think this is a really sort of high quality image, which really calls out all of the features that you're going to get on this NAS. Some of the standout things which you can see on here are things like the applications that it's got, the virtual machine hosting, the multimedia capabilities, and some of the fast networking. It also has HDMI support, and on this CPU it will output up to 8K. Obviously, don't expect to run any gaming on here. Inside the box, again, it's a similar story. Some really good high quality foam to keep this thing secure. And I was really impressed by how it was packaged, and also the quality of the accessories that came with this. Inside the accessories box, you've got the warranty card. You've also got the power brick that comes with this. It uses just a standard barrel connector, so you could probably use something you've already got existing. And then it also came with some Ethernet cables and a couple of other accessories, which I'll showcase later in this unboxing. The good news was everything went back together dead easily, and you could store this away no problem. The actual NAS itself, again, came protected pretty well. It was well wrapped within this sort of plastic wrapper. Sorry about the finger. I did injure myself on a saw, so you'll just have to put up for that for this video. Once you open up this plastic wrapper, you then start to see the kind of, I feel like a bit of a nerd, but the beauty of the build quality. You get a dust filter, which is magnetic and simple to remove. And then on the back, you can see the fan inside, and also you can see some of the I/O. So you've got HDMI, USB 3, USB 2, a couple of those ports, and then you've got the 2.5 gig port and the 10 gig port as well. The dust mesh filter just clips back into place. Really good strong magnet on there, so you won't have any issues getting it slotted in. If just turn it round, and then we can look on the front. Here you'll see that we've got the 4 hard drive caddies. We've also got an SD card reader, USB-C, and another USB 3. The labeling on the drives as well is really handy, and there's also a Kensington lock key on the bottom so that you can lock those drives and make sure that nothing comes out. The motion for the caddies was really smooth, and again, great build quality. The actual caddies themselves were really easy to use, kind of quick access. And again, the full metal construction just adds to the weight and quality of the build. If you turn the device upside down, you'll see underneath a couple of screws. This is where you gain access to both the SODIMM modules and also the 2 slots for the NVMe drives. As I mentioned before, this will support 64 gigs of RAM and a total of, I think it's 96 terabytes between the 4 drives and the NVMe slots. Those are PCIe 4x4, so you're going to get up to sort of 7.5 gigabytes per second on each stick. The drives that Ugreen sent me, as you can see, are the Iron Wolf 4 terabytes. And to get these into the machine, it's really straightforward. There's a clip on the bottom which extends the caddy. You put the drive now into the expanded caddy, and you simply need to click it back into place, and you're ready to rock and roll. This, again, really strong, sturdy, good quality plastic. And once I've got all these loaded, I'll show you how to quickly put it in. Again, really straightforward. The hinge mechanism on the quick release was really strong, and it simply glided into the machine, and I was able to have this up and running in about 30 seconds. Once all of these modules are put back in, you're pretty much ready to go. You can get this slotted in and powered on. You simply need to put in your barrel connector, stick your network jack in, and you're off to the races. Overall, I think they should be commended on a great first product. If we go back to focusing now on the accessories, you get 2 really good high quality beefy heat sinks. The actual Ethernet cables as well are Cat7 with gold plated ends, and I've also got some nice protectors on the end, which is a nice touch. You also get the Kensington keys as well to lock it. So if we now take our attention and look at the web interface and how you're going to interact with this NAS, I'm pleased to say it's really attractive and very responsive. So the initial sign up process for this NAS is as simple as plug it into your network. If you've got something like DHCP, it's going to pick up an IP address. You simply then need to put that IP address into your address bar and register the device. Registering the device is as simple as creating a username and password, accepting the user agreement, and then going through some optional steps such as having Cloud Sync enabled and remote access. But once you've done that, you're greeted with this page here, which is the login page. I'm doing this over a VLAN and it's pretty straightforward as long as you've got access in your firewall. There's also a handy client if you're having trouble using this through the web interface. So to log in, let's go for it. So logging in, I'm presented with the home page, and I think this is a pretty attractive proposition. We have some interesting information up here in the top right, which if we click on this, it should open up and show us more detailed info. Things like the CPU, GPU, memory, network, disk volume. Very similar to what it looks like in a Windows environment when you open up the task manager. There's also a way to view all of the processors that are running under the hood, and again, it looks like they've taken a lot of inspiration from the Windows Task Manager, which I think is a good thing, especially for the market segment that they're trying to target. If we look back at the CPU, you can see that we're idling at about 1%, the temperature at idle around 45-46 degrees, and this machine has been on idle now for a couple of days. You can see that the GPU available, there's 0% utilization, and I'm hopeful that in future videos I can get this working with some pass-through, especially when they're creating that new release which should have virtual machine and Docker containers baked in. Memory wise, I've only got the 8 gigabytes that it came with. I'm left with about 2.61 gigs, it says, after some of it's being cached. I'll obviously want to expand that if I want to be running more VMs and some containers. On the network side, I've actually got this connected in the 2.5 gig port, but into a 1 gigabit switch. I've got a bit of a problem whereby I don't actually have anything that's 2.5 gig capable, and I don't actually have anything 10 gig RJ45. I'd need to get a converter to SFP Plus to test out those speeds. The hard disks in this machine are 4 terabyte Iron Wolves. that Ugreen were kind enough to send to me for this review process. I've got those in a RAID 5 at the moment just for this demo process, and it's what was recommended during the configuration process. I've created just a single volume with those drives, and I've got that set up as a network share. Some things I like about this is you've got the handy CPU and RAM gauges at the top, as well as a notification for the network bandwidth. You also get the task center, so you can see what tasks are currently running, and there's also a handy notification center at the top as well. One of the first things I recommend you do is go and update the firmware on your device, just to make sure that you've got the latest and greatest. So if we have a look in the control panel, which is where most of the advanced features are, you can see we've got user management, so we can create multiple users for this NAS. So perfect for a home environment and a small medium enterprise where you might have multiple users that you want to create and give their own file structures to and follow things like the principle of least privilege. There are file service settings like you would commonly expect for things like SMB, FTP, NFS, etc. And there are a number of useful applications baked into this. Things like rsync if you want to create an automatic replication backup service of your NAS. This could be really handy if you want to back up in the cloud. Other useful features are to use the remote access feature, which will allow you to access your NAS through Ugreen servers. If you didn't want to do that, you could obviously just create, say, a VPN connection and connect to your local network and access it as though you are on your local network. Another handy feature is that you can join this to your domain. So if you're using this perhaps more in an SME, you could actually put this onto your domain and reap all of the benefits of having this domain controlled. This would mean you could push this out automatically to your enterprise devices, and you could also do automatic syncing, updates, etc. Handily, there is terminal access to this if for whatever reason the web UI was unreachable. You would be able to then log in via SSH and hopefully fix any problems, or maybe get access to additional settings under the hood. As I say, this is using a Linux operating system that may tailor your situation better. There are some basic settings around the inbuilt speaker control, things like the fan and the LED indicator that you can change and tailor to however you want. One thing that's interesting is you can schedule power offs and power on. So perhaps if you want to turn this off at night when you know nobody's going to use it, you could then turn it on automatically in the morning, say maybe between your working hours. That's good for power efficiency, obviously, as the device will be turned off when not in use. It does look as though there is also some plug and play with UPS. I haven't actually managed to get this to work on mine, but it might be a feature that will be more supported in the future, and there are compatible products that it lists. Unfortunately, mine is not on there. Network settings are pretty straightforward, but comprehensive enough. You can edit all of the things that you would normally expect, so gateways, DNS names, etc. You can also set a proxy if you wanted to. One useful thing as well is traffic control, so you might want to limit certain traffic that's accessing the NAS, and here you've got the ability to do that without having to go into complicated things like firewalls and QoS. You can do this natively through the web UI. It's good to see that there are fundamental security controls baked into this, so things like automatic logout, things like some rudimentary DOS protection, and things like auto-blocking IPs after certain bad attempts. It's also good to see that there are some basic firewall functions here, like cross-site request forgery, and making sure that things like content security policies are enabled. And nicely, if we go on to the next tab, we can actually enable the firewall here and create some rules from the device. So we could restrict traffic from certain devices' subnets if we wanted to. We can also configure certificates for the device again, which is great for security, great for making sure that you get green ticks in the browser, etc., meaning that you don't have to run this through an external proxy if you don't want to. There's also a handy system update that's here to download the latest firmware, and also system restore and reset if everything goes wrong, and configuration backup and restore. So thankfully these things aren't hidden in the command line, and these are all readily available through the web UI. If we head into the storage manager, this is where you create your RAIDs. So if we have a look, you can see that I've got all 4 drives populated, which is great, and it's really nice that they have a graphical indication with the blue dots that these are all populated. You can see that I've not got anything in the M.2 slots at the moment. But scrolling down, you can see all 4 disks here, and handily it tells you the temperature of those drives as well, which is really nice to see. Storage management, you can see here that I've got storage pool 1. It's using all the disks in a RAID 5, and it's running in BTRFS, which is great to see because it's an advanced file system within Linux. If I wanted to, I could create new storage pools. I could choose the RAID type I want, select the disks. So for example, if I wanted to create additional ones using the NVMe drives, I could do that. Or if I wanted a different format using the existing 4 hard drives that I've got at the moment. It's good to see that there is some drive health checking in here. Actually, in the storage management, you can see that there's data organization and there's advanced settings for performance and quick repair. This is taken a step further in the hard disk management section, whereby we can do some health test plans. So we can actually create plans as well on top of the default plans. And in the advanced settings, you'll see that we've got some warnings for bad sectors. I obviously want that on because it's highly indicative of a failing drive. Now, because this device also has USB, we've got external storage management as well baked into the GUI, which is great to see. That makes our lives so much easier. There's also advanced settings here where we can configure additional parameters for those external devices. The last thing that's probably worth talking about in detail is the App Store, which is handily available on the front page. And as you can see in here, I've got quite a few of these already installed, but there are some specific ones from Ugreen that you might want to check out. So things like having download installer. So you could use your NAS as the default location for downloads on your network. Photos, which enables you to upload and sort your photos, and also has that image AI acceleration for object detection, which is a great feature. There's Security Manager, which is basically a version of Clam antivirus, which you can install on your NAS to make sure that you're scanning all of the files that are uploaded to the NAS, obviously useful for protecting you against common malware. You can set this up as a DLNA server, so if you've got a bunch of media that you have on here, you can play that remotely on different devices on your network. And there's also the option to do manual installs of applications. Now, at the moment with the software, I wasn't able to get anything additional onto here, but I imagine this is something that will be greatly added to in a later date. Also, some of this may not be required if you're going to go down the route of installing virtual machines and containers when that becomes available in the next update. So as you can see, in terms of the application itself and the user interface, I think it's pretty good for a first attempt. I think it would be nice to have virtual machines and containers available at launch. I think that would make it truly competitive at this price point with other manufacturers, especially because there's a lot more hardware available under the hood here than with some of those Synology and QNAP devices. Once this gets VM support and containers, there's not really anything at this price point that's able to match what's under the hood here, especially when you're looking at 12th gen CPUs and 10 gig networking. Okay, so a quick wardrobe change later, and we're ready now to test out a few of these applications. So the first thing I'm going to do is the Photos app. So that's as simple as clicking install and then selecting the volume where you want this to be installed and where all the data will reside. I've only got the one volume here, so that's the one I'm going to select. You can also choose to always install apps on this volume in the future, which should make installation a bit more seamless. I'm going to let this download and I'll see you on the other side. So while that installation completes in the background, I've gone away and I've downloaded some images of faces that I want to upload to here and test what it's capable of. As I've said before, this uses AI image generation on the chip. So in terms of privacy, There's no data leakage outside of your network, and obviously that also applies to any files that you put on this NAS. It's not going off to a cloud provider, something like Google Drive. All of your documents are going to be rapidly accessible on your local network. So now that's finished, we can hit open, and let's add some photos. Now those photos are uploaded, I'm hoping that it should start to do some AI-based object detection. And if we go to things like the tools over here, you can also see that it's got some cool features. So there's friend upload management, where you can give access to other people to upload their photos to your NAS. Sharing management, searching for similar or duplicate photos, and fixing some blurred photos as well using AI. If we click on that, we can enable that. But hopefully if we go back to the photos, I can actually hear that the CPU fan is spinning up now, so I suspect it's doing some processing in the background. I'm going to give this a couple of minutes and I'll come back in a second. Now, I didn't have much luck when I type in person. It didn't find anybody, and equally if I close that down and I search for a dog, it did find this one, but it's because it's got dog in the file name. I was expecting it to be able to recognize via image recognition that the other two were also dogs, or all three of them were dogs, based upon the image itself. So I'm not sure if I've not got something enabled. From everything I can see, I have seen an object detection on, person recognition, and also pet recognition, which was interesting to see at the bottom, and those are all applied on the personal media library. So maybe there's something I'm doing wrong, maybe there's a quick fix that's necessary, or maybe it's fixed in the next version. But irrespective of that, it still looks like a decent application for storing your photos, and hopefully with a few tweaks it will have that functionality baked in. So to create a network share, I want to create this first because then I want to be able to test the speed. Bear in mind, I do only have a 1 gig connection to here, but I obviously want to see that saturated because this machine should be able to saturate a 1 gig connection perfectly fine. And obviously it goes up to both 2.5 and 10 gigabytes per second through raw throughput. Writing to hard drives will give a different throughput, but unfortunately I can't test that at the moment. So clicking on advanced, SMB 2 and 3 are enabled, so that's fine. I'm going to be accessing this through Windows, so those defaults look sensible. Hopefully I won't have to change anything else. So I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to try and connect to this now through my Windows 11 machine. So now I've connected to the NAS, and I'm going to select a file and let's see what the transfer speed looks like. So for the NAS, I'm going to now paste the Big Buck Bunny video, which is about 700 megabytes, and you can see here I'm maxing out my connection 111 megabytes per second. So that's great to see. And that should be a similar story for using the full 2.5 gigabit and also the 10 gigabit. Bear in mind that it won't scale linearly, and with a 10 gigabit per second connection, the hard drives are probably going to be maxing out at about 500 or 600 megabytes per second. Maybe recording directly to the NVMe storage, you could get that full speed. But you might be better off using the NVMe's for the upcoming virtual machines and Docker containers. So this brings me to the conclusion of my review of the Ugreen 4800 Plus. Do I recommend it? Yeah, I think I do. I think it's a good device. It's well built with solid hardware, and those things cannot change. If you're not happy with Ugreen's OS, which I genuinely do believe will improve to be more in line with its competitors, once that happens, you've got great hardware with hopefully a great OS which has feature parity. As I said, if you're not happy with the OS, you're not locked into their operating system. You could put whatever you want on this. And I'm going to do that in some future videos to see how far we could push this. It would be great to have this running a full-fledged VM hypervisor and with that NAS storage on board and the ability to use 10 gig networking and 2 NVMe's to host those containers. I think this is a great product. It's really power efficient and is well priced within the market. Anyway, I hope you've liked this video, and if you are interested in the product, do have a look at the link in the description where you'll get a discount for their Kickstarter campaign.